I don't know why it's doing that.
Thank you, Marty.
Can anyone hear us online?
Somebody let us know if you can hear us now on Zoom. Okay, good. Thank you for bearing with us. We will start with persons to be heard. Folks, we'll have 3 minutes, and then our first item of business will be consider authorization for the supervisor to sign an MOU regarding the existing MOU for the Credit Farm and Pleasant Grove realignment. So we're shifting things around a little bit. So who would like to address the board this evening? And again, if you would come up to the table and we'll give everyone 3 minutes. So would someone like to address the board? And just make sure, I don't think that's on. So just press the button, the green light will show up. Yes.
So this is about credit fund. That's what I'm.
It's persons to be heard. So if that's what you want to talk to us about, that'd be great.
Yes, I don't have much to say except that in Forest Home, I've been there for about 20 years, and what Cornell has done all around has made a massive impact on the sub-village and the community, especially if you have kids, but you just want to walk along the road. And this memorandum seemed to me really important when it was agreed as a basic part of the massive new development by Cornell just up the hill. And I just can't understand why the town would want to let Cornell continue to eventually be surrounded, or every single bit would be massive. That's what I'm saying. I think it's a terrible idea to renege on the agreement. That is fundamental for us to.
And Donna, could you hear that okay? Or somebody on Zoom line, just let me know if you could hear that speaker okay. Okay.
It was pretty good.
Okay, and if people either sit or hold that mic closer, I think we'll make, you don't want to hold that mic. So you might sit, then you'll be closer to the mic. Anyone else who would like to address the board? A familiar face in this.
Good evening. Nice to see everybody again. Paulette has a new look. I sent a message as president of the Forest Home Improvement Association a little earlier today to the town board, so I won't repeat everything I said in there, except that this is a very important issue, the intersection with Craddock Lane to the neighborhood. And we shouldn't allow one individual's interpretation of the value of reconfiguring the intersection to cancel 10 years of work by members of the town planning board, town board, and Cornell and the city. Actually, not the city, the county. So I would urge you not to pass this tonight and take the time I have left to say what might be done about it. First of all, I would recommend voting down the motion tonight, then appointing somebody to go to the director of highways for the county and say, look, the town board doesn't agree with you. We still want this intersection fixed. And if he agrees, we can work it out. If not, then the county manager should be approached and say, look, we have an agreement here. And we have one of your staff who's not willing to carry out the terms of the agreement. If that person doesn't respond, then we should go to the chair of the county legislature. The chair of the county legislature is the town of Ithaca representative. And we could say to her, we're having trouble with your staff. They won't carry out this agreement. And so we can get this done. There are ways to do that. Then after that, go to Cornell and say, look, the town and county have worked this out. When can you start work on the intersection? If you will remember, those of you who have traveled on Craddock Lane, Cornell totally redid the entire Craddock Lane just a few years ago, spent enormous sums of money on it, beautiful lanes, wide shoulders. So they've already spent a lot of money on Craddock Lane, and this will be a minor amount of money for Cornell to spend on fixing the turnoff, so that instead of going straight into Forest Home, you go straight into Cornell, and you have to make an effort to get down the Forest Home hill. So those are my recommendations, and I really do think if Cornell isn't willing to uphold their end of the bargain, I think we should take a lesson from Ben Nichols. Some of you know that tale. Ben became the mayor of the city of Ithaca. He was a physics professor at Cornell. He asked for Cornell for a contribution to the city to help pay for some of the increased expenses caused by Cornell. Cornell refused. All of a sudden, Cornell could not get any projects done. Why? Because they weren't issued the permits to do them. There are ways to get these things done, and we can't just give in to one person's interpretation and say, we're done with this agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, Herb. I think I'll mix things up a little bit. So there's some folks on Zoom who also want to address us. So I will call on Robin Blakely Armitage.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
We can.
Thank you. Hi, folks. I'm Robin Blakely Armitage. I live at 206 Forest Home Drive, which is just about at the bottom of the hill, Pleasant Grove Road, across from the Down Street Bridge. My neighbors are Caroline and Bill Arms. So what happens up the hill directly impacts what happens down the hill. We've lived in this house for 12 years. I have 3 children. The situation of traffic, the amount of traffic that has increased in the last 12 years that I've lived here is just, I don't know if I would have bought this house actually, if it were today. I love Forest Home. I love the nature, the proximity to Cornell, et cetera, but the traffic has become, it's a safety concern. My children cannot stand out for the bus close, anywhere near the bottom of the driveway. There's been times where people pull into our driveway to pass folks that are at the stop sign. There are so many pedestrians. We spent a lot of money, and the town did a beautiful job on this public path that connects Forest Home up to Warren Road, and it's been used. So the increase in traffic on that by joggers and walkers has been wonderful. But by the time they get down to Pleasant Grove, that intersection, it's the wild, wild west down here. And I'm really, really concerned about children's safety, pedestrian safety, jogger safety. We have, I'm not trying to, I don't want to come across as a NIMBY type at all. I mean, I'm a Cornell retiree. I understand that people have to get to work, but the situation has become much, much worse in the last 12 years. People do not stop at these stop signs. There's what we call bridge rage, with the sort of the standoff in the middle of the bridge, frequently, several times a day. It's just become sort of a chaotic place, and anything that Cornell can do and has agreed to do in the past about channeling all the traffic that literally is coming for mostly coming for Cornell employment should be protecting the safety of the residents, including the students. I understand that all our safety is important, but I firmly believe that Cornell needs to adhere to its agreement in the past. We need to vote down this new approach, and really look at the public safety and quality of life in the surrounding areas. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Robin. Would someone here like to speak to the board? Oh.
Thank you. I'm Charlie Troutman. I live at 304 Forest Home Drive. And I'm here to urge you, like the previous speakers, to not relinquish the agreement that we had previously for that Cornell would fix this intersection. I have been told that one of the reasons that the intersection can't be redone is because of buried utility lines that somebody didn't know about. And I've taught civil engineering at Cornell for upwards of 40 years. In fact, I was just up there an hour ago with my students. One of the first things that we teach our students is whenever you're planning a project, you dial 811. It's a free service. Within 24, 48 hours, all of the buried utility owners under the area you want to dig are required by law to come out and mark their utilities. So I'm totally, it's jaw-dropping to me to think that Cornell didn't know about the utilities that were underneath there. So I just want to add my voice to those who have gone before me this evening to urge you not to pass this resolution and to require Cornell to fix the intersection, which they agreed to do in order to get permission to build the North Campus project.
I'll turn to Carl.
Hi, my name is Carl Sedlacek, and I live at 15 Fairway Drive, and we have been here for close to 20 years. And I have to agree with everything that has been said so far in terms of approach and logic, and also the fact of the matter is that there was an agreement from Cornell, and it has an impact on our community. So there's a responsibility here on their part, and I think there's a responsibility all the way around, and everybody has been upholding that in conversation for it seems like the longest time. And so I think that if the logical step, which I believe is to be true, is that they should be voted down and a solution needs to be found in order to provide traffic abatement and safety in the Forest Home area. I completely agree with that. The things that Robin said about that intersection is totally true. There have been collisions there. There are students running through there. I wouldn't walk through that intersection. I used to walk through that intersection, but I will do no more because it is out of control. And so, I mean, there are other areas of Forest Home down Warren Road and stuff like that, there are issues there, the whole 9 yards, but that hill and that intersection, that lower bridge is not good. And that's the reason we're talking about all this now. And it's been discussed for years and years and years. This community cannot handle that type of volume and the safety risks that are involved. So whether it's a roundabout or an awkward T intersection or what has to be done, this is supposed to be the one of the smartest communities around in terms of being able to solve problems. So I think this is a problem that can be solved. And I think there's a responsibility, and I think it needs to be upheld. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak to this, and I appreciate everything that has been said so far, and am in total agreement with it. Thank you.
Well, I'll come back to someone in this room who would like to speak.
Thank you for taking the time to hear us this evening. Forest Home is infrastructurally speaking, it's a community defined by one-way bridges, narrow streets, and entirely inadequate and often entirely absent sidewalks. It's also full of town residents who live there, not just people who commute through there. And that includes children who walk, play, and bike there. For anyone who's ever tried biking through Forest Home with their kids, it's actually kind of scary. And it shouldn't be. So I will take incredibly little of your time because you've heard a lot of great reasons already. But I am here, like those speaking before me, to ask that you vote no on tonight's resolution. Find a way to divert the traffic, which was the settled expectations that everybody had heading into the NCRE project. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm sorry, did you call on me, Jeff?
Yes, yes.
Oh, hi. Hi, everyone. Thank you. I wish I could be there in person. It looks like a great crowd. I just wanted to ask the board to vote no against this measure. I think we should keep this plan in place. I support and strongly agree with what's been said before, particularly what Herb said about holding to the agreement. My personal experience is we drive up that road every single day to take my daughter to Cornell childcare and to pick up my son from Cayuga Heights Elementary. The bus comes across there. That intersection up the hill is nuts. I've seen more people crossing illegally since people have returned to campus. I think it's incredibly dangerous down the hill as well, where we're the recipients of what happens up at the top of the hill, as Robin said. So I think traffic has gotten worse. I would like to see more data. I'd like to see what the slope on the traffic is, because I see it increasing more and more since we dipped at the bottom of the pandemic. And I just see much more traffic. And, you know, there's 2 new buildings going up in the area, one on Tower Road and the at the synchrotron facility. There's increasing capacity there. We can only expect that it will go up if they just change the bus route. That would increase the traffic on that road significantly. And that did change since 2019 when this agreement was made. So I would strongly urge the board, in summary, to vote against this. So thank you for having this, and thank you for listening.
Good job. Anyone else in this room who would like to address? It's already on. You're good.
I'm Connie Sterling Engman. I live at 120 Warren Road. I'm opposed to the credit farm, to this proposition. The agreement with Cornell should be honored as it was written. That's what we counted on. That's what allowed the entire North Campus expansion project to happen. I used to do things on North Campus, and I now do them at the Y, which I prefer. I go through that intersection twice a day on my way to the Y and other community events that I go to. I pick people up at Hasbrook and come down to St. John's Church on Wednesdays and Sundays. It's hazardous. It's a very hazardous intersection. As other people have said, students are crossing there. People seem confused about what the rules are and where the crosswalks are. There's a lot of traffic. People don't stop where they should. There are often Cornell police parked down in the Forest Home Chapel, checking on speeders or trying to discourage speeders. That's great. It would just reduce our quality of life so much. And traffic really has increased since the pandemic. My dining room is about 25 feet from Warren Road, and I often have to close the windows and doors because the noise is deafening. And sometimes it's even hard to sleep. So there's a definite increase in traffic. We already have a problem with lack of sidewalks, and which could be solved also. I also help tend the Forest Home Park. I've planted some native plants there. And we mow, Herb and I mow down there. So we know how hazardous it is, and the flow of traffic across the bridges can get very confusing at times. People don't seem to know the rules about how many cars should go before you pass. And so passing this change would just make our quality of life worse, and it would cause a lot of safety issues. Last thing I'll say is it'd be nice to be able to roll a stroller along some of those roads and feel safe for children to ride bikes, for older people to be able to walk there. I plan to age in place if possible, and I'd like to feel safe walking in my neighborhood for many years to come. Thank you.
Connie. We'll go to Bruce and or Doug Britton.
I guess it's Bruce later. Thank you. Again, I agree with everything that's been said already, but just sort of the bigger picture. The problem is you can't go, cars that are already on North Campus can't get to Central Campus without going off campus and through Forest Homes. The solution is Craddock Farm Drive. The planning board required that to be built back in 2000 when NCRI was first dorms were built. 2019, they required the intersection up there to be so as to direct traffic more readily onto campus. Cornell Master Plan advocates this. There's a memorandum of understanding, town, county, Cornell. This is feasible, it's desirable, let's do it. Some progress gets built, and then after the dorms are built, after the students move in, all of a sudden everything comes to a halt. And that does not smell good. And here's Jeff Smith, like Herb was saying. Jeff's position is to carry out policy. It's not to set policy, it's not to subvert policy. And yet somehow he is being used, or his reticence or his concerns about that intersection are being used as just a, stop everything in its tracks. So I would strongly urge you to vote against your new memorandum to keep the old one. But I have to say, the bigger picture, which really, really concerns me, it looks as if the town board is trying to subvert the planning board. The planning board set conditions for development, and it looks like you guys are now set to just pull the rug out from under them. And that, to me, I see that as a really big problem. And I guess I'll leave it there. Thank you. And Doug will speak later too.
With Doug, do you want to go now?
You want to?
What the heck? Mic's on, might as well. Okay, thank you. Hi, everybody. Yeah, if you've read all the stuff that was sent, you really know the basic outline. Cornell wanted to put dorms in North Campus. The planning board said, sure, that's fine, as long as you redo the intersection. Cornell said, that's fine. County said, it's fine. MOU was created to make sure it happened. Legally binding agreement. Everybody said, it's going to happen. We will do the intersection. There's no way to back out. If there were a way to back out, it wouldn't be a condition of development. It would be a suggestion maybe, but no, it's a condition. The MOU, legally binding, you cannot back out. If progress goes more slowly, you look at paragraph 5, it says the senior executives of the 3 groups get together and kickstart this thing and get it moving. And that's what it's time to do. It is sort of ground to a halt. For some reason, I mean, yes, Cornell did start and they had a traffic circle and it looked promising. And then that's sort of the last anybody heard. And then the next thing you know, the students are moving into North Campus. Well, wait a minute. One of the conditions was that final plans be completed before they get their CO. They weren't done. The students moved in anyway. Something went wrong. How come they got the CO? Shouldn't that concern you that one of their conditions has been violated? And then now this thing comes along and says, oh, by the way, not only is the intersection going to be done maybe later, it's never going to be done at all. Your condition doesn't matter. Cornell got what it wanted. You're not going to get what you require. Is that, I mean, I don't know who's behind your, your resolution number 6, but whoever it is as if they're not working for the town, they're working against the town. I mean, kicking the legs out from under the planning board, how smart is that? And then I don't, some of the things in the whereases in resolution 6 are just too much. I'm tired of hearing that, oh, Jeff Smith won't let us. It doesn't matter. He doesn't have a choice. His boss signed something that says he has to do it. And he was going along with it until after the students moved into the dorms. And then he says, well, I don't really like the idea. Well, tough, too late. You have to do it. So it's time to go back. Maybe it's the traffic circle. What they're supposed to do, according to the MOU, come up with something that Joe Slater likes, come up with something that Jeff Smith likes, Cornell likes. Once everybody agrees, this looks like a good one, then you do the final plans and then you construct. So I think the thing to do is students are going to move out, what, in a week or two? Yank the CO, don't give it back to them until they get the intersection done. So that would be my suggestion. Vote against number 6. Figure out who in the town is working against the planning board and have a little chat with them. And then go ahead and make sure that they get this thing done. They agree to it. They don't like it, tough. They shouldn't have agreed. Thank you.
Anyone else here in this room would like to speak?
Lars Washburn. I live on Judd Falls Road. And like many of my neighbors and colleagues who are well represented here, I can measure my time in the neighborhood in decades. In fact, I'm closing in on 94 years of my family owning a house. In the past 20 years, I've seen a number of incremental improvements that started with the development of our neighborhood master plan with Gladding Jackson, who created a bunch of protocols for us to maintain a semblance of quality of life there in the face of the fact that we've all made our peace with living next to a large university. None of us are expecting it to stop growing, but we have been able to make improvements to the neighborhood, which ease our own levels of safety and walking on the roads. And the intersection alignment that was supposed to be changed in response to their desire to build the new dormitory housing was something that was discussed mentioned to us. And I'm fortunate that we have a neighborhood government that pays attention to all the details so that each of us individual homeowners does not have to focus on that. And to hear that this has been taken away or been subverted from something that would have been an improvement for us is hurtful to hear. I believe that just looking at us, that many of us are looking to age in place where we are. It's beautiful. Even if we end our time working at Cornell, I don't think many of us are looking to leave the neighborhood, and things that will make it safer for us, safer for the students who continue to come here, and for the commuters to get where they need to go is going to be beneficial. And that alignment certainly seemed to have that all in its vision. And it's a shame that that is being considered to not move forward. And so I put my voice in support of what my other neighborhood residents have asked you to do. Thank you.
Lars. I'm not seeing any other hands up on the screen. Oh, I think I just saw Elizabeth's hand. Elizabeth? You're on mute, Elizabeth.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes.
I just want to endorse what my neighborhood colleagues have said. It's really shocking that a few people at Cornell are trying to overcome this and change the rules in very dangerous ways. So please support the people you represent and not a couple of people at Cornell. Thanks.
Anyone else here in this?
My name is Linda Barrington. I'm at 124 Judd Falls Road, and I've been in the house for 4 years, so this has been going on more than twice as long as I've lived in the house. So all of the work that's been done to get to this point, it would just be tragic to reverse that and let it go. So I again support with my neighbors not approving the modification.
We'll go to Linda.
Aloha. Nice to see my neighbors. It's an honor to live in such a smart, wise, brilliant community. And I'm zooming in from Hawaii. I live at 210 Forest Home Drive. And, I'm looking at this resolution and it looks to me like what was weighed here was the county highway department saying that the reconfiguration of the intersection is not in the best interest of the traveling public. What you folks are here to do is to consider the interests of the cars, the residents, the public who lives in this community. There are way more constituents involved than the traveling vehicles. There are people who walk, there are people who bike, there are students, there's the long range interest of the community in preserving livable, walkable roads. And so that one criteria cannot outweigh all these other concerns that everyone else has expressed. And it's just, that's your job. So you need to weigh all of this very measured and respectful input from some very smart long-term residents and do your job. Thank you.
We'll come back to the town boardroom. Anyone else here?
Hi, my name is Jennifer Laux, and I'm another Forest Home resident. And I learned a new word today, bridge rage. Didn't know that word before, but I have definitely experienced it. I've seen it. I don't have any arguments to add to those that were presented very eloquently before me. I'm surprised yet another voice urging you to vote no on this authorization, but I'd also just like to emphasize that as Herb said at the very beginning, I think there are solutions, there are ways to work through the issues that have been raised constructively, and that it's premature to vote no on this authorization. So thank you.
Thank you. I hope you guys don't mind that I'm jumping back and forth between in the room and on the screen. So it says Caitlin, but I don't think Caitlin is speaking.
Thank you. Caitlin is here, as well as Jamie Lair. We're longtime residents of Forest Home for over 25 years. I'd urge you to vote no to change the memorandum for two reasons. I think it'd be good to hold Cornell accountable to decrease traffic in this area, and they agreed to that. And I think there are creative solutions that can happen. And in addition, I think that there are better ways of doing this, and the town board should not overrule the planning board. So I urge you to vote no to change the memorandum of understanding. Thank you.
Anyone else here?
Hi, I'm Nancy Fuchs. I'm another resident of Judd Falls Road, and I just support my neighborhood in voting no and encouraging you to vote no. And I also wanted to point out the safety issues that are not only present now, but are being encouraged. We have electric bikes that are being very heavily encouraged by not only the town, but Cornell as well. And that has been something that people have been leaving just alongside the road and things of that nature, but if they could actually get to where they're going a little easier, maybe go through the intersections a little easier, those would also be more accessible to everybody as well. So it's not just a safety issue, but it could also be looked at as a green issue to help traffic go a little easier. Thank you.
We'll go to Ruth next.
Hi, Ruth Marr. I live on Judd Falls Road, another longtime resident of Forest Home. I don't have anything to add to what my good neighbors have said. I just want to second what they said, that I believe you should vote no on this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. Anyone else in the room here?
I also live in Forest Home on Fairway Drive, and I agree with everything that everybody said. Thank you.
Mary Ann, I believe you want to speak. And you're muted, Mary Ann. You're still muted. Still muted, Mary Ann. There might be an audio icon in your lower left-hand corner.
But it's not working.
There you go. We can hear you.
Okay, I was trying. Anyway, I'm in agreement with everything I've heard. And I've been in Forest Home for a long time, across the street from Ruth Marr. And I live in the little Sears Roebuck Kit House next to the Cornell Gardens. And I'm there for the long term, except I have a spot in Kendall. So I drive that route almost every day from Kendall to Forest Home, do some gardening, check on things there, and then go back to Kendall. And my neighbor across the street next to Ruth has a similar schedule now. So we're the two people who live at Kendall and have our homes in Forest Home. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Anyone else here?
Hi, I'm Nancy Troutman. I also have lived in Forest Home for decades. And I just wanted to point out that a couple decades ago, I don't remember the exact years, we did a thorough traffic calming study in Forest Home, and several people here were part of that. We worked closely with the town of Ithaca and Cornell and a private consultant, and we did lots of deliberations on how to make traffic slow down. We looked at, can we cut down the number of cars? The answer was no. The consultant said, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could just divert the cars in the intersection that we're talking about? But at that point, that was not a feasible option. We were delighted when it became not only an option, but a requirement when North Campus was being expanded. So I just want to second everybody's motion that we turn down this, or turn down require that the intersection be modified as the planning board required. Thank you.
And I'm not seeing anyone else with their hand up on Zoom. So I'll turn back here. Anyone else who would like to speak to the board? If not, we're going once, going twice. We're going to move on. This is your last chance. Sure, you've spoken before, but we'll give you a little bit of time.
I didn't say my name is Charles Britton, and I live in 214 Forest Home Drive. I wanted to just add that I've got a kid at the Cornell Child Care Center, and I would be taking her up there every day. It's a very nice, would be a very nice 10-minute walk, but I can't walk up there because there are so many cars. It's so dangerous, the little hill in Pleasant Grove, end of Pleasant Grove Road. So that's bad for me and my neighbors, I think, and we've said so. But also, a lot of the students who live in graduate students and their families who live in Hasbro, who are not here because they're not long-term residents, they walk down and up that hill often. And I think it's important to express how much difference it would make to them to have a safe environment where they're actually walking up and down. This really matters to Cornell. The Cornell should be taking care of them as well as the rest of us long-time forest home dwellers. It's a really dangerous piece of road. I mean, you just couldn't take a kid up there in a stroller or something if you didn't want it to die or be put in danger. And there are a lot of kids in the house. Thanks.
Short, keep it short.
As a member of the Forest Home Community, Forest Home Improvement Association, we have an annual cleanup, neighborhood cleanup, which is very successful. And I've noticed when there's more traffic, there's more trash on the side of the road, a lot more trash. It's mostly liquor bottles, beer cans, hubcaps, broken off car parts from that. So that's another reason to vote this down and stick to the original agreement, because I don't want to be picking up more trash that's just creating microplastics in the. And Margaret, you're a cyclist. I mean, you talk about cycling a lot, and Herb and I cycle. There's so many cyclists coming up and down Warren Road and walkers. How could you vote to make it more dangerous for cyclists and pedestrians?
I haven't voted yet.
Yeah.
Okay, we will move on then. So thank you everyone for speaking this evening. We appreciate it. So as we said, we will move first to what was item number 6 on the agenda regarding the MOU. First, I just want to make very, very, very clear that the town board is not usurping the authority of the planning board, period, the end. There is some misinformation about this issue, and I just want to be very clear that the conditions set by the planning board were met by the planning board. So this board is not usurping any authority of the planning board. There's some other things that I think were some misinformation, but I think everyone knows that this has gone on for a few years. It all started with the North Campus residential expansion. There's a partnership with the city, the county, and the town. The original MOU said that what would be explored were options for what might happen at the top of Pleasant Grove. It did not say that something would be chosen and built. It said options would be explored. Options were explored. Yes, the highway director weighed in and said that he thought that based on traffic counts, that a realignment was not necessary. So some of what I've heard tonight is almost correct, but there's, everyone has bits and pieces of the entire puzzle. It's a complicated puzzle. Cornell is exploring wayfinding signage and the construction of a North Campus gateway. It has not been brought to the town yet, but I know that they're exploring that to encourage people to turn onto Credit Farm Drive. So we look forward to Cornell coming forward with that. I'm not sure what else to say. I'm going to see if staff want to highlight anything, and then we'll open up to the town board. But because others can speak more eloquently to the whole series of events related to this, any staff want to chime in or clarify something? If not, that's fine. Okay, town board member. Comments, questions? And Susan Brock is here to answer questions if we have specific questions for Susan Brock. Yes, Rich.
So I first have just a couple general comments and then maybe some questions. And then first of all, I want to thank everybody. I think your arguments are very persuasive. I can understand your frustration. I also appreciate the gentleman who did point out the fact that you live within spitting distance of an extremely large institution. So there are going to be some ancillary impacts from living there. So it is, as always, a balancing test. I'm looking at the original MOU, and I do, Rod, you know that this has been a difficult issue internally. I don't think that anyone, I haven't heard anyone in the town say that we're against a realignment of the intersection. I think that what you're hearing is that we feel as though conditions, potentially, some feel that conditions have potentially been met, and that we're somewhat beholden to the interpretation of the Director of County Highway. I'm looking at the MOU from 2019, and I see in the second whereas that there is a reference to actual project construction that is part of the agreement. I see in terms of a schedule that schedule letter F says substantial completion of construction. So to me, it does appear as though there was at least, if not a direct agreement, at least the implication that something would be constructed. So I also feel that I don't know to the extent to which this group is organized and made its opinions known to the county, but I would suggest, and I'm going to suggest, that we not consider a vote on this tonight, that we push it off 1 month, during which time you can maybe direct your argument to the sticking point. And I think that, I don't know if you've been to County Highway, I think that you can go to the legislature. I can see on the calendar, there's a Facilities and Infrastructure Committee meeting this Thursday at 9 in the morning. I don't know if they have privilege of the floor. There's a legislature meeting on the 16th. And I think that if you don't get any traction there, I'm not sure the extent to which the town can impose its political will on the parties, the counterparties to this agreement. But if there is no time crunch, I would propose that this be put off for 1 month and no longer, during which time you see whether you can persuade the people who really need to be persuaded. Because I don't detect any opposition to finding a solution. I hear that we're more or less kind of hamstrung here. So I may have made some enemies on the board just now, but I do hear what you're saying. I don't know that there is a need for this to proceed immediately. And I think that if you haven't availed yourself of certain years at the county, I would advise that you do so, and then see what kind of movement you can get there. So I'll start with that.
Other board comments?
Sure, I'll weigh in. So this redesign of the intersection has been part of the project since the beginning. It was broadly agreed to with a memorandum of understanding, and I see no reason to abandon the effort. The intersection is substandard. I walk there and bike there, and it's substandard, dangerous, and unfriendly for walkers and bikers, and there's no reason to abandon this effort to improve it and abandon the agreement.
And I might ask Susan Brock to explain what the original articulated. I think there might be some misunderstanding about that. She's traveling, so she had warned me that I might ask her to say something and she might not be able to respond. So I'll come back to the board for a couple of minutes to see if other board members have comments or want to weigh in. Eric.
Rich's is there about postponing it? Is
there any urgency why you would be opposed to doing that? Rod?
No, so what I remember Susan saying, the Cornell has signed off on the MOU. She has been waiting to hear from the county attorney. And I think finally he said he was okay with the agreement, but he wasn't sure if it needed to go to a committee first before it went to the county legislature. So there is a slight holdup for all three parties signing off on this until the county attorney determines that.
Rod?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, it took me a minute to get unmuted. So yeah, the county attorney did check with his people at the county, including Jeff Smith, and they are signed off on the MOU, just that piece of it. What you were just saying now?
Yep.
Okay, and then I'm sorry, you had another question for me before that, and I forgot what it was.
The original MOU, the 2019 MOU that the planning board was using as a bit of a guide, I don't think it specified build out of any realignment.
Well, it didn't specify any particular design because at the time they gave their approval, nobody knew what it would be and nobody knew what the timing would be. And that's why they didn't require construction prior to C of Os being issued, because they thought it would very likely not be able to be constructed prior to C of Os. So that was all left, to the MOU to sort out what all the milestones would be. But there is a milestone in the MOU to do the construction. I think what you might be thinking of is the city's seeker that the city was lead agency for this project, and it was a coordinated review, which meant the town planning board did not have a role except to provide comments as an involved agency. So the city planning and development board did the seeker and they gave it a neg deck, and in their neg deck, they just said that the city, county, and Cornell should explore whether that intersection should be redesigned. So I think that's probably what you were thinking of. It didn't direct that the neg deck was dependent on that intersection actually being redesigned. They just neg decked it saying explore it without anything really more on that. But the 2019 MOU does have milestones that go right through construction of the redesign once it's been all approved. And as everybody here probably knows, it's a county road. And so Cornell cannot do anything, and the town cannot direct that anything happen on that road without the county giving its approval.
So Susan, I just want to make sure. So you said it does not need to go through a county committee. It's been signed off by.
So Bill Troy, I talked to him. I don't know, actually. I asked him, but I don't know that if he told me, I don't think he told me if it has to go through a county committee first or if it goes straight to the legislature. I don't know the answer to that. But that in terms of staff, they were fine with it, so that he would be, processing it through the county process. So I'm sorry if if I left a different impression. What I meant to say was that the staff were all signed off. Bill Troy and Jeff Smith and whoever else he showed it to there in terms of staff were signed off.
And if we delay it for a month, that's fine, because there's no specific, they would give people a chance to go and speak to the county.
Yes, there's nothing in terms of any schedule or deadlines or there's nothing driving the timing of this. No.
So how do others feel about delaying for a month?
I agree with delaying for a month, not only to provide our constituents an opportunity to make some more progress on getting the other stakeholders, in line with their views, but also, I think, on the town board to give us some more time to understand the controversy here, which really came closer to this meeting for myself. So I'd like to study that a little more.
Do we need to have a formal resolution Or can we just all agree that we're going to not move forward on this?
We haven't moved the resolution tonight.
So we're just,
Maybe
And it's-
not to move it.
you, Rob, you're comfortable with that?
I'm comfortable with no movement.
And Margaret? Okay. Anything else?
I just wanted to just briefly just speak to what Herb was saying, which is, it sounds like he was asking the town government to exert its political influence on other governments and, you know, Cornell. And I would say that to the extent that you all have exhibited a high level of organization and political influence yourselves, I would encourage you to go to the county and make your voices heard and not rely solely on town government to do your speaking for you.
But certainly we can call Jeff and explain what happened this evening so that Jeff Smith and Shauna Black, that they're aware of that we're delaying. Anything else on this evening from the board? Thank you all for your time and participation. Okay. We're moving on to opening a public hearing at 6:28. This is regarding a proposed local law amending chapter 270 of the Town of Ithaca Code zoning to revise provisions related to increasing the maximum permitted size and footprint and other miscellaneous regulations associated with the solar arrays. So we're holding the public hearing tonight. The idea is, and then we'll close it tonight. We may have to reopen it when we look at the seeker and actually passing the solar law on May 22nd. So I will see if there's any members of the public who would like to address, and all the materials were obviously sent out to you, maps, the draft solar law, and various information. So you have all that information, and it's also on your computers. So any members of the public who would like to address the board, feel free to come forward. Yes, come forward.
Howdy, everybody. Ryan McEwen, actually City of Ithaca resident, but born in the town of Ithaca, grew up on West Hill. I actually don't necessarily have any comments that hadn't already been turned over to the board prior to the last meeting, but I wanted to make myself available if anybody was curious about any of those comments. Just to back up, I work with NextAmp Solar. We're a solar development company based out of Boston. I'm obviously here. So I'm the director of the New York market, and ultimately NextAmp hopes to bring forward one, if not more, projects within the town of Ithaca to the extent that both the municipality and the utility are supportive of those types of projects. So there's obviously some context to why we made any proposed changes or comments to the law, but to the extent that this board had seen any of those comments, I wanted to make myself available to answer any questions about that rather than submit any further.
So we'll see if others, well, any questions for Ryan while he's there? Okay.
Very good. Easy peasy. All right. Thank you so much.
And I do not believe that there's anyone on Zoom who wants to speak to the board on this issue, but are there other members of the public here who want to speak to the board on this topic? Okay, we'll close the public hearing at 6:31. You'll see the seeker and the law on the May 22nd agenda. I do not believe that the next agenda item we'll be able to move forward on. So you'll remember at the last meeting, we talked about Ithaca Beer's request for music. We did vote on some of what they wanted at the last meeting. We conveyed to Dan that we had some questions and we wanted to see some updated information. We did not get anything in writing. And obviously no one from Ithaca Beer here with us this evening. So I don't know that there's really anything to talk about tonight about Ithaca Beer. So maybe they will Anyway, any questions, any comments?
I just wanted to update the board that I had an informal conversation with a person in the sound reinforcement industry who has constructed and rented a portable band shell, and he has made contact with Ithaca Beer in the past. And as far as he has indicated that there was no interest at that time. It's not inexpensive, but I don't know what Dan's numbers are, but it's also doesn't seem to be prohibitively expensive. It may be at an inflection point for him, but I think that I found it interesting that there had been some discussions about potential, amphitheater that would potentially project the sound in one direction and keep it from going in another. So potentially more to come on that. I think they may have a follow-up discussion.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, we'll move on to the next item. Authorization for the town supervisor to sign a contract with Bell and Spina Architects Planners for the detailed construction drawings and specification services associated with the mezzanine and with taking out a bathroom in the port offices. So we already have a contract with them. This would be an addition for them to include those two spaces and coming up with design drawings, specifications, associated permits, and bid documents so that we have some idea of what this might cost us. So you're not saying yes to moving forward. It would just give us more information to know whether we feel comfortable moving forward. And you can see that there's a lump sum fee of basically 26, I think there's a typo there, 26,000, and an additional 5,200, or is the 5,200 included in the 25? No, it's not. So in addition, to help with travel expenses. So any, would someone like to move to this?
I'll move it.
Rob and Rich seconds. Questions, comments? And I forget what their timeline is for, I think that they would it be a similar timeline for this component as for the rest of the building, or might this come a little bit later? Dan, do you know?
Well, we're not under contract yet, but just in discussions with them, they are backed up a little bit by other firms. So we're probably looking at a 2-month.
Okay.
Subject to change.
And this is a company that's working on the weatherization project separately.
Correct.
Designing that.
With some involvement from Tatum.
Yeah, I understand.
Not you,
I'm
but
not-
some
I'm
involvement
not
from Tatum.
going anywhere near that project. But I understand that we have a piece of it.
Right. Other questions or comments? All those in favor of the resolution, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Moving on to item number 7. This is authorization to award and execute contract for the town of Ithaca Forest Home number 1 pump station improvements construction contracts project. This is one where we, because of original bid that went out, that we're way over our thresholds, we rebid it and broke it into 2 projects. So this is to move forward on base bid A, and the amount would not exceed, you can see the amount there, basically $1,017,000. So Dan, do you want to just explain what this would do if we award this to Vacri Construction?
Yeah, there's 2 major components to this project. There's the force main and there's the pump station itself. They're somewhat unique, identical individual projects in of themselves. We ran the original public interest order for both pieces combined. Trying to stay ahead of the county and the repaving project and the schedule of the county. Was very important that we get the force main in the ground first so the county can pave. So what we're looking at here is awarding base bid, roughly $403,000. In the alternate, that's for the force main. The alternate is for the pump station itself. We do want to award the alternate, but looking at the numbers, which we feel are good bids, we're going to be slightly over the public interest order amount. So a lot of discussions have been had. We want to award Part A, and then immediately what we would do is fall in and retool the public interest order for additional amounts so that we could award Part B at a later time. Part B is scheduled to take place next year, just due to the scheduling of things, so that won't inhibit run this process. And if for some reason the board or members of the community are not okay with the new public interest order, we don't have to do the pump station piece. So they're somewhat of two distinct projects, but we tried to combine them originally. So that's kind of the encompassing backstory.
So would someone like to move the resolution? I'll move it. Is there a second? Any further discussion or
I
question?
want to make sure I understand it correctly. The bid summary in our package, there's two bids. One is like twice as much as the other that we're looking at here.
That's
And
correct.
we're talking about awarding it to the low bidder.
That's correct.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, I know in my experience, a bid range of 100% is not unusual.
And we've worked with Zachary.
We've worked with Zachary numerous times. And just on the flip side, the same high bidder was the same single bidder that we got previously.
Oh, is
Pretty
that
much
right?
Rebid
Okay.
the same number. We got some more interest, obviously, that's the second bidder.
Yep.
They were within the engineering estimate, roughly, really close to what we approximated this to be. And obviously with the climate, the construction climate and all that stuff going on right now, it's a very good.
Yeah, good job connecting with them and doing the rebid. Sounds good.
So with respect to the retooling the public interest order, how is it that we don't need to do that for Part A of the project, but we do for Part B?
Because we're still within the original project amount. So our public interest order was run for 1,017,000 roughly. So when you,
Susan Broccoli beside.
I see Susan's
Jan,
picture on the screen, so so it's okay to proceed initially and then,
so this.
doesn't that
this-
predispose you to an action? in
Yeah,
the
this
future?
situation is a little unique. And like I was trying to say, we originally did the public interest order as one project. Okay. We are now classifying this basically as two projects that we've combined. We have a force main component, which can be done in and of itself without doing any pump station work. And then we have a pump station, which can be done in and of itself without touching the force main. We want to do both. So this is unique in that, we've talked with Susan and other people involved in the bonding process and such. We're going to move ahead with Part A because we can afford that right now. We want to retool the PIO to increase the amount by roughly $60,000. So instead of, it would be 1,077,000, which is what we'd increase the overall PIO to, so that we can award Part B. And if for some reason that process does not happen or it's voted down,
It doesn't kill the first.
it doesn't
part.
kill the first part.
All right, well, I appreciate that. Maybe we shouldn't refer to them as parts. Maybe we should refer to them as separate projects.
Separate projects, yes. I mean, we're learning our lesson. We were trying to tool, we're trying to be efficient,
Got it.
keep them together, but obviously
Okay,
things
well,
develop.
I'm satisfied. Thank you.
So you don't need Susan to weigh in, just to verify.
No, I think it's,
Okay.
I'm fine. Thank you.
So any further comments, discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Moving on to number 8, authorization for town staff to proceed with contracting for appraisal services for the potential purpose of plus or minus 135 acres of natural lands on South Hill. We would be working with David Long Appraisal Company. The amount not to exceed $1,000, which would come from the open space plan account. Would someone like to move this resolution? Rob, is there a second? Eric seconds. Questions, comments?
I have a question.
Yep.
is that price expected to be the price?
Yes,
Okay.
we had two bids and we went with a much lower bid. So it's not gonna, I think it was $1,000.
It just sounds low to me. I'm glad.
Yeah.
Other questions or comments? All those in favor of the resolution, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Number 9. This is consider approval of a revised temporary road closure policy. And there are not too many changes to the policy. It changed the number of days to read, at least on your screen, on your computers, you have the red line version or purple line version, maybe. 21 days prior, the road to be closed should indicate their support by signing a petition. The town will make every effort to notify residents. In the case of a denial, the applicant has the right to appeal the decision. I think those were the major changes. So would someone like to move the adoption of the revised temporary road closure policy? This doesn't happen very often.
Yeah. Block parties, huh?
About once a year.
So would someone like to move it?
Yes.
Rich and Eric seconds. Questions, comments?
Who's having block parties?
There's one in particular request that I've seen every year since I've been the highway superintendent, is up on Oak Street.
Oh.
That kind of triggered, looking at this policy, cleaning it up a little bit. It was a little bit confusing. It had the town board resolution highlighted on there. The lead time was 30 days, like Rod spoke to, back that down to 21. And I think it was great that maybe just notify the residents in the area that the street was closed that day. So I don't think it's going to be a huge deal, but you never know.
Any other questions, comments? All those in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
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 Unanimous. This is very exciting. This is a resolution proclaiming Building Safety Month, which is May. So whereas the town of Ithaca is committed to recognizing that our growth and strength depends on the safety and essential role our homes, buildings, and infrastructure play both in everyday life and when disasters strike. By the way, I'm not reading the whole resolution. It's going to be posted to the front page of our website, but I'm going to read a couple of segments of it. I gave a part of the option of reading it and you declined. Whereas our confidence in the resilience of these buildings that make up our community is achieved through the devotion of vigilant guardians, building safety and fire prevention officials, architects, engineers, builders, tradespeople, design professionals, laborers, plumbers, and others in the construction industry who work year-round to ensure the safe construction of buildings. Whereas it starts with you, the theme for Building Safety Month 2023 encourages us all to raise awareness about building safety on a personal, local, and global scale. And resolve that the town board hereby proclaims the month of May 2023 as Building Safety Month and encourages all residents to join them as they participate in Building Safety Month activities. And I'll just add, the town board certainly appreciates our Director of Code Enforcement and our code staff very much. So would someone like to move the resolution?
I'll move that.
Okay, enthusiastically. So a second that's enthusiastic. Eric, okay. Any questions, comments that people would like to add at this
I
time?
have a lot of experience with our hardworking code enforcement crew from my years on the zoning board. These guys really get out there and make tough calls. Good to recognize.
What, do you have a permit pending or something?
Yeah. Maybe. Maybe.
He doesn't. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor of the resolution? I'm sorry, did you say something?
I just wondered, I know that it's International Biking Month, International Walking Month. Is it also International Building Safety Month, or is it just kind of, yes? Okay. Thank you. I was just curious.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor of the resolution, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
So Marty, do you extend our appreciation to all your staff and to you?
I will.
Good job, Marty.
Thank you.
And thank you for bringing this to our. Moving on to the consent agenda. Would someone like to move the consent?
I'll move that.
Is there a second? Is that Rich?
Yep.
And Eric seconds. All those in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Any report of town officials? Let me just mention the correspondence. You got the list of correspondence, including, I can't remember if this went out with the correspondence, but Mike Smith did send out the deer management report from this year. We'll certainly talk about that this fall before we head toward another potential programs. Wanted to make sure everyone got the deer management report. I will just give my note of appreciation. So Saturday, we had a very successful event at Tutelo Park. I want to thank the public works staff, our partners who worked with us on it, and our volunteers. It was very well attended. It was a beautiful day, and I think it accomplished what we set out to do. So I just want to give my note of appreciation to everyone who was involved. Other reports or mentions that folks, either staff or board members, want to do this evening? Yes, Paulette.
I need to point out that in the correspondence, we also had a 30-day waiver for Alachant Bistro over in Community Corners. Village doesn't do it, the town has to say that whether or not they have any issues with that.
Waiver.
30-day waiver of the liquor license,
Oh,
the application.
So all we need to do is mention that, and if no one.
Right. Does anybody have any issues? It went out in
Any issues?
correspondence. I sent.
It's ongoing, right? This is the renewal.
what are we being asked?
No,
if
this
we
is
have
a new
issues
one.
with?
The new one.
Like,
The liquor license for,
if they had issues with them having one?
Correct.
right.
No, I'm in favor. Okay, sometimes,
There you go.
and it's beer and wine only.
Let the minutes reflect the Rob's enthusiasm.
Enthusiastic support. you know.
What do you got in that cup?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other
Water.
updates, mentions of things going on in the town? If not, we'll close the
Oh.
meeting.
The Connect the Trails celebration.
Oh, sure.
Sounds like a good time.
The celebration is going to be May 20th. There are going to be groups coming from the town of Ithaca side, the town of Dryden side. There's going to be games for kids. And they're looking for volunteers, but it should be a good time. And right now, everyone's trying to figure out where cars would park in the situation where Game Farm Road is down.
And I walked on the trail, rode my bike on the trail for the first time yesterday, Saturday.
It's beautiful.
Sunday,
Definitely check it out if you get a chance.
very
It's
nice.
really beautiful. The trail used to be so rough that I was always looking down, but now that it's moved out, you look up and see these gorgeous.
I'll also mention that the Courtright property is a done deal now. So there were a couple of hiccups here and there, but it's a done deal. So yeah. Nice when some things end. And we have signed the contract for the streetlights, the maintenance contract. They've billed us, so that's moving forward. So any other updates like that are sort of hanging out there? Okay, so I will close the town board meeting at 6:51. Thank you, everyone.